What's up, guys? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the crazybrick. And today, it is time for possibly one of the largest LEGO World War II armies to ever be created. Thanks to my friend here, Ron Paul, for helping me assemble all this. A lot of this is his as well. And we went ahead and decided to put our heads together for this. It took 3 or 4 hours, at least, to assemble all this. And there's over 600 figures here, over 30 plus vehicles, and I still have a ton of sealed kits as well. And we have a lot of stuff in the making as well. And yeah, so over 600 minifigs. Over here we've got a bunch of allies. Over here we've got a bunch of Germans. And yeah, so anything you want to add before we get into this?
Well, this took 6 hours to complete, and yeah, this is just the first of hopefully many videos where we will be assembling our armies together. Hopefully we'll expand in the future, and we'll make more videos as that happens.
Alright, let's go ahead. I guess we'll go ahead and start off with in front here. Obviously, you got to start off with the figure I always start off with on any of these. The .2 D-Day minifigure. I believe I just said that wrong.
Yeah.
How do I pronounce that?
No, you said it right. .2
I did say it.
The Army Rangers.
Army Ranger there. So, and then on the left of that, I believe that is our Panzergrenadier figure. Newer to the collection. And then we've got a Soviet, I believe, officer right there. It came in the mini kit with that little Jeep back there. We'll get to that later on in the video. And so there's our front 3 figures, my 3 favorite, but not to be outdone by the Flame Trooper right behind it. Flamethrower, USMC right behind it. And so we'll come down here and start on the right and work our way right to left across this. You want to take it from here with the British?
Alright, so here we got 2 or 3 columns actually of British. Here we have our little medic.
4 actually.
4 columns, really? Oh, yes, I forgot to count these. Here we have, this is my favorite as an officer. I just had to go with a classic British mustache, and if you look behind him, he's got his mug, so he's already ready to drink some tea wherever he is. Right behind this officer here, we got a small group of paratroopers ready to drop in far behind enemy lines. Here, on this row, we have a whole bunch of desert rats, the fearless Commonwealth soldiers who defended North Africa from the Germans. Here is an Australian, he's one of my favorites. Got the cool hat there. Ready to go wrangle some alligators as soon as he gets back home. And after that, we just got our standard infantry right over here. Got some British soldiers here. And then right up in front, we've got our British tankers. These 4 right here. They're pretty cool. I like this guy with his leather jerkin there. Keep him nice and warm. Those cool goggles to keep the dust out of his eyes. And then moving over, we've got some more allies here. We've got our French tank commanders here. We've got a French officer, and another French soldier. And these 3 here are Polish soldiers. We don't have helmets for all of them yet, but hopefully we will, and then we'll get some weapons for them. And then moving on, we have our massive American division right here.
That's probably over 150, probably just of the Americans.
Probably.
At least.
Probably got at least 30 airborne soldiers here. Right here on the right, we mostly have members of the 101st Screaming Eagles right over here. And then we got some more down here with a couple of 82nd Airborne soldiers thrown in there for good measure, because sometimes they get a little confused when they're dropping down and get mixed up, but they fight together. They're all Americans after all. Then over here we've got our standard infantrymen. This is one of my favorites. This is a radio operator. I built this little radio pack myself. It's pretty simple. You can see how it's constructed there if you want to build one at home. Now, I've seen some other people build ones before, but I haven't seen too many. It's just a nice piece to add to your collection, because radio operators are pretty cool. And of course, we've got just a whole bunch of American soldiers around here. We got some more Rangers from D-Day. Those are pretty cool. Those vests, which are actually only used during the D-Day landings, to my knowledge. And after that, the U.S. Army decided to return back to the standard webbing gear. that they used throughout the war. So that's pretty interesting that it was really only used for one campaign. Let's see what else we have here. So moving down the line, we've got some more Americans. We've got a small group of medics right here, ready to patch up soldiers on the battlefield. And you see here they're not carrying weapons because under the Geneva Conventions, which were pretty much formalized during the last war, medics are not allowed to carry firearms in battle, as they are technically not combatants and should not be treated as combatants. So and they don't carry weapons, and it's illegal to shoot a medic.
And should we say very quickly, there are going to be 6 Easter eggs that you can find throughout this little thing here. We've got Star Wars Guy and a few other ones, so make sure to comment them down below. And, yeah, tell us you can find all 5 of them. Exactly.
Yes.
Tell us you can find all 5 of them.
Alright, and then moving down the line here, we've got some more of our late war soldiers right here in olive, and transitioning right over here, we have our U.S. Marines.
This is my favorite part, that's for sure. All 40, I think over 40 or 50? I'm not sure how many we counted before. But yeah.
We see here all the different variation between them, all the different uniforms that were used throughout the war. So you see here we have the frog skin camo, and the interesting things about these uniforms is that if you zoom in closely, you can see it. But these uniforms were actually designed to be reversible, so that way they could be worn in desert terrain, like this one here, like you'd see on, I want to say Iwo Jima or on Okinawa, and then you have more jungle camouflage like what you'd see on Guadalcanal. So I think that's pretty cool that the uniforms were like that. They're all printed to be double-sided. And then here we have some of the standard uniforms here. And these are pretty neat here. And as you can see here, what was usually done in combat, although they were issued these gaiters to keep out water and mud and whatnot, it gets pretty hot in the Pacific during the summertime, so a lot of times soldiers would just leave their pants untucked to leave more air, and sometimes they'd fight shirtless and shoeless. So they'd run around the Pacific scaring the Japanese, looking like a whole bunch of hobos. Moving over here, we've got some of our naval soldiers fighting on the seas. Here we've got our commander right here.
Definitely one of my favorites.
That was a fun one to build. And then moving over here, we've got all of our vehicle crews here. We've got a miscellaneous bunch.
All for the LV, or
a whole bunch of. We got some tankers. We got some mechanics here. I like this guy's fun build. This one looks really happy to be in a tank where he's surrounded by armor. Got his helmet on just for safety, of course. Then moving on, we have our flamethrower marine ready to smoke out the enemy from their foxholes. Interestingly enough, flamethrowers were actually banned a few decades ago to be used on enemy combatants, and seeing as how brutal they were in war, I don't find it hard to understand why they were banned. Then moving over here, we get into our Axis powers. So here we have a line of German panzer crews here. We've got our 2 panzer commanders. There's one there. That's mine. And then here's Isaiah's here. Cool battle scars. And here we have our SS officer. Body is from Brickmania, and the hat here is from the Minifig Co. And if you zoom in, you can see the skull right there on the insignia of the hat, which is pretty cool. And then moving over here, we've got some Waffen SS, which were the combat SS soldiers here. We've got a whole bunch of them going down. You can see this little tab that was made there on the collar there. It's pretty cool.
We also made sure to mix and match all of the camos, as you can see there, and it turned out very, very cool.
Yes. As the war went on, veterans would oftentimes mix up their own gear with whatever newer gear they like to include in their equipment. So you'd get a whole bunch of mix-max of equipment as to whatever the personal soldier preferred to carry on them. And here we have the German Sanitier, who is the medic responsible for patching up all wounds on the battlefield, just like the other medics we saw down the line. Then here we have some of our officers up in front, like we have here this field marshal, looks pretty good with his trench coat. Here we have, it's a little faded, but we have the mustache man himself, who will remain nameless. Then we've got some more officers down here, which I think are pretty cool. Then moving over here to this section, we've got some more camo soldiers. Some of them are Waffen SS, and some of them back here are just here. And then moving on, we have all of my Germans.
Get it? Just here.
And then moving down here, we have most of my Germans here, which they're pretty standard, just regular here soldiers. I think they're pretty nice.
And just over 100.
Yes. That cost me a small fortune.
Just for the helmets and the...
Yes, and then moving down the
weapons.
line, we have here our DAC soldiers, the Africa Corps, which are pretty cool. And here we have another field marshal, based him off Erwin Rommel for the design. I think he looks pretty good with his hairpiece there and the white jacket. Looks very nice. And then we've got some more soldiers here. I like this one, which is a custom Brickmania decal that I put on this olive drab body because I think that looks pretty neat. You don't see too many olive drabs in Lego Africa Corps soldiers, so I think that's pretty cool to have. Then back here we've got some of our Italians, famous for the worst tanks on record and changing teams when they lose.
And they have some good food, what can I say?
Oh, can't forget about the good food. And over here we have our snow troopers, I guess. I don't really know the correct term for them, but got them here. These mostly see them either fighting in Russia or during the Battle of the Bulge. I like this guy. I made him. He's a sniper. He's got his little scarf there and a sniper rifle and a backpack for when he's out in the field for long periods of time. And I especially like these legs, which I snagged off Luke Skywalker. Hope you won't mind, but put him on there, and I think that looks pretty neat.
The Force is still strong with him.
Yes. And then moving down the line, we have a row of Japanese soldiers.
The smallest of our armies, I believe, for Axis armies. We do have only about 7 or 8 Italians, but
7 Italians. We got some more of them back here, and then we've got these standard Italian soldiers that you'd see fighting in Italy itself. And then moving down the line here, we finish with our Russians right here. Right here we have 5 Russian tankers. All look pretty neat. And then here we have the rest of the Soviet army. This one's pretty cool, stands out. This one is one of the Russian Marines who would be able to fight much like the Americans on the sea or on the land. And then coming down the line, we just got some more soldiers. We got this Russian here with his massive Dishka. Things are, if you look at it here, it just totally dwarfs the minifigure. It's amazing how big these things are, but they got a lot of nice detail on them, so that's pretty cool. And of course, coming down the line, we've got some Russian sappers here, or engineers.
Some of my favorites.
Some call them. Yes, they're very nice minifigures. And then let's see what else we got here. We got this guy here with a Molotov cocktail, ready to destroy any German tank. And then this is one of my favorites. This is an NKVD officer, or the Soviet secret police. Got a sneer on him, ready to take you out to the gulag for counter-revolutionary thoughts. So, mind what do you say around him, or you'll be freezing your butt off in Siberia. And moving on to the back here, we have all of our vehicles.
Just a few, just over 30. I think there's 32. We're gonna say 31 and a half because some of these are not complete. And we've got this A6M0, which is mine. I took off all the tiles. We tried to put it together. How many times did it fall apart?
4. One of the times this wing just shattered and scattered under the table there, so that was fun trying to find all the pieces.
Yep, we've got a bunch of figures also back here as well.
Yeah. Like here we have our camera died, but it's back now, so that's good. Here we've got our Messerschmitts here, which I built this. This is probably I think this is one of the first things I built using one of the Brickmania instruction books that I got my hands on. And here we got some of Isaiah's Luftwaffe's pilots. These are pretty cool guys here. We got one with his life jacket there, and then got another one here with a black jacket, and then one here with a brown jacket right here. And I think all of them are really cool minifigures.
Yeah, definitely some of my favorites, and hopefully the Minifigs restock so soon, because I definitely would like to pick up a few more of those.
Yes, it'd be nice to build some more German planes to go with them. I know I have the instructions to a Stuka, but I still don't have all the parts for it yet. And here we've got the remains of the A6M0 with 3 Japanese pilots clinging onto the remainder of the wing there. Imagine they're all out of bullets. So.
Get a nice little, are 2 of our Fallschirmjägers back there.
German paratroopers. They're pretty cool.
I got a bunch more in there, but we could not find...
enough heads and helmets.
We ran out. I mean, when you have this many figures, I think you're going to run out over time.
Hopefully we'll get some more. And moving down here, we've got a small German artillery piece with this fine young man operating it. Looks like he'd use some shells though, or else he's just gonna be standing next to a
Sitting duck.
And then here, we've got some more Luftwaffe soldiers here next to this Flak 38, which is one of mine. I think that's pretty cool. The gun rotates, and I think that's pretty cool, and also elevates as well. So that's a pretty fun play feature. And then here we have probably my favorite of the collection. This is mine. I built this entirely custom. This is the P-36 pea shooter, which it didn't see very much action during World War II, and when it did see action, it was mostly shot down. But the reason why this plane is famous is because it was the first all-metal aircraft that was built. And I think it's just really neat design. I love the blue and yellow color scheme that you'd see in all these sort of planes. And I just think it's a really neat piece of history, and it's a funny looking thing next to some of the other more sleek builds like the Messerschmitts or the Zero or the Spitfire, but
which we're coming to.
It looks pretty nice.
Second here.
Moving down here, we have a German half-track, which
Not completely finished, but
almost done. Just need to get some treads for it, and then that'll be all finished up. And then here we have the Spitfire.
definitely my favorite of the 4 planes we've got set up here
Pretty cool.
today.
Yeah. It was fun coming up with a camo pattern for this, just picking and choosing is how I wanted to do it, and I really like the way it turned out. Got that sort of classic Battle of Britain color scheme that you'd see in 1940 and 1941, which I think is pretty neat. And moving down the line here, we have the LVT, which was used by the Marines in the Pacific as landing craft. They're pretty cool. You can see the door can come down and open. The back if you'd like to, and
a few of these Jeeps fit in here.
you can fit a Jeep in there as well.
That's not the one that fits in. Oh, is that? Yeah, that is the one that fits. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Those are pretty neat.
Messed around with that earlier.
Even though they have the door in the back, from a lot of historical accounts I've heard, usually soldiers would jump out the side. And the reason they do that is when you're coming up on the beach here, let's say here, it's the beach here, you land right about there, you have all the water all around you. So if you go around the backside, you're going to be walking through all this water to try and get to the beach. And it's really tough. Anyone who's tried to walk through up a beach, it can be pretty tough with the currents and
especially none of you have probably tried that with probably 40 pounds of gear on you.
Oh yes, that
minus the guns, your gear and all that stuff.
Yeah, so you'd basically be walking along maybe 3 or 4 yards, just completely exposed, and just be a sitting duck. So that's why they jump off a little bit closer to the beach. Over here we have famous T-34,
the most shot down tank of all time, actually. I believe there were over 14,000, I think, destroyed.
That sounds about right.
I believe.
But for every one that was destroyed, the Soviets managed to build another one. That's how you win the war. Over here we have the Panzer IV, which the early war variant. So this is the sort of thing you'd see in the fall of France, or also you'd see they saw some action in Norway as well. And then there were other variants that had a longer turret, just so you could get more of a spin on the shell, and when you get more of a spin on the shell, that makes it a lot more accurate. Over here we have my unfinished M4 Sherman, which is a nice tank. Really no match for a Tiger, but if you get a dozen of them against one Tiger, the Americans are going to win any day. Over here we have 2 of my Panzer IIIs, which saw action in France as well as North Africa. Moving down the line here, just to make a quick U-turn here, we have the Russian Gaz here, which is a nice little Jeep here. Beneath, that's where the Russian figure that is
in the middle right
here came from. It's from Brickmania. Over here, we have the Westby self-propelled artillery piece, which, as you can see, it'd be pretty cramped in there when you have 3 guys trying to load shells and give commands. So we just have 1 guy in there right now, so he's enjoying all the space to himself. Over here we have a French tank, I believe. This is Renault.
I believe that is how you pronounce it, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely not a great tank, but, you know.
Yes.
The French...
When it comes to the French tanks, I prefer the Char B1, which was an absolute behemoth.
And most of the French tanks, the French at the beginning of the war just thought they were going into another World War I, and so they created tanks to be infantry support. But that is not what tanks ended up being in World War II. So
yes, as we saw with lightning warfare, they were used on their own in their own entire divisions, such as Erwin Rommel's Ghost Division, which decimated the French forces in a matter of days. Over here, we've got our little Kubelwagen, which is actually one of the predecessors to the Volkswagen. So, neat bit of history for all you Volkswagen Beetle lovers. And then here we've got a few German officers. They don't look too happy. Guess they got lost somewhere. Over here we have two Beeps here, which manufactured by Dodge during the war. One of the great manufacturers of American vehicles. And here, this is Isaiah's, and this is mine. Some of you may recognize this canvas piece here from the Indiana Jones Truck Chase set, which is personally one of my favorite Indiana Jones sets. And here we have an American motorcycle here.
very nice build.
That was fun. There's actually a sidecar to it, but I didn't bring it with me today just so it would be easier to transport. Here we've got another Jeep, this one, with a M1917 machine gun on it. Interesting things about these machine guns is you see this very bulbous barrel, and that's because this entire section here was actually filled with water to help cool down the machine gun, because water-cooled machine guns, the barrel will overheat a lot slower than with something like an air-cooled machine gun, like you would get with the M1919. Over here we've got yet another Jeep, this one with some of the U.S. Marine Corps insignia on it. And of course here we have two landing craft, which would be used by both the Army and the Marines, and saw action in North Africa, and Sicily, and mainland Italy, as well as the Pacific, of course, and most famously during the D-Day invasions. Moving down the line, I believe we have two different dingoes here, which were neat little troop carriers. Or these aren't dingoes, what are these? I forget the name of them.
I believe those are Bren carriers or something.
Oh, that's what they are. Bren carriers.
I'm pretty sure that's the. I'm pretty sure.
I believe this is a dingo and this is a Bren carrier.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, and we see here this one has more of the desert camouflage. These are used a lot by the Australians.
Those were used on my Siege to Brook mock. I built 3 of those. We got one back here as well. That one is a little destroyed, but
yeah, we've got most of it there. Yeah. So we got 3 of these, which would be used mostly by the British and the Commonwealth forces. And of course, we've got another American Jeep here with a all-American pilot at the wheel. We've got a field howitzer. We have an American half-ton truck here. And then, of course, here we have Isaiah's favorite tank.
That is currently built, I should say that.
It's currently built.
That is currently built. Have a ton of tanks.
Talk a little bit about this one?
Yes, this is the Sherman Firefly British tank. This is one of the coolest tanks I've ever got. All the British tankers are actually up in the front. The color schemes on this, some of the printing that Brickmania did on this is just phenomenal. I have the Easy 8 Sherman as well. That is not built right now, and I would definitely take this Sherman over the Easy 8 any day of the week. I know, and the Easy 8 is probably one of the most famous Brickmania kits.
Probably.
If not the most famous Brickmania.
Now, a little bit of history here. We can take the standard M4 and look at it in comparison to the M4 Firefly. And as you can see here, it has a much longer barrel, which did a lot better job at piercing through German armor. But it was such a big gun that was stuck in there that there wasn't any room for the radio. So they had to put the gun in sideways and then create a special box in the back which would house the radio. And then they found that the gun was so heavy that the standard Sherman engine was not able to operate under the strain, so they took 2 V8 engines, put them together, and stuck them in the back of the tank. And that's how this Frankenstein of a vehicle runs. And I believe that is everything.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a long time in the making. You probably anticipated this since you subscribed to the channel. And yes, we recently just did 2,500 subscribers. Hopefully this video gets a few thousand views. Just a few thousand views. And so we'll be doing a minifigure giveaway coming up shortly. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe with notifications on to not miss that.
And if you find all 6 Easter eggs in this massive army, if you can point out all 6 of them correctly down in the comments, you will win a giveaway.
Alright, thank you guys for watching. It was a long one. And hopefully you guys did enjoy. I apologize, some of the camera angles are probably bad. I don't know. It was a long video. Hopefully you guys love the history, thanks to my friend here, Ron Paul. And hopefully to see him and make some more guest appearances here on the channel. So if you guys are new, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.